They've totally ignored the fact, of course, that every Commonwealth country's leadership, quite understandably, has been expressing their mourning and grief for the loss of Elizabeth II. And why would that be if she was such a tyrannical ruler?
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. My name is Elaru, and today I'm back with a new video to check out with you guys. This is called Absolute Moron. Douglas Murray obliterates CNN host for racist hatred. You know how it goes, guys. We talk less and we react more. Let's check this out.
That absolute moron we just saw first from CNN talking about reparations, she has no idea in her own racist hatred.
You are about to see Douglas Murray completely destroy a woke host and the mainstream media. Douglas Murray did not hold back. Watch.
CNN, MSNBC, they've all decided to display not just animus against the Crown and against Great Britain and the Commonwealth. They've also decided to display their extraordinary ignorance of history. I mean, they seem to believe that, for instance, Elizabeth II oversaw the empire. They seem to believe the British royal family made its wealth from colonialism. They seem to think that the colonial era was so terrible that the Commonwealth countries must have been strong-armed into joining the Commonwealth. They've totally ignored the fact, of course, that every Commonwealth country's leadership, quite understandably, has been expressing their mourning and grief for the loss of Elizabeth II. And why would that be if she was such a tyrannical ruler? Only because that's in the head of these very twisted, spiteful, hateful people like the New York Times. It's quite amazing to watch and very disturbing, because it's a reminder, if I can say so, that, you know, institutions like the New York Times used to be great institutions, and they've been destroyed by hatred. And that's the exact opposite of what Queen Elizabeth showed in her own lifetime, which is that you build institutions with love and loyalty. And that's something that the CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, they wouldn't understand the language we were speaking in there.
No, and it's not just the hate. As you said, it's the historical ignorance, which is astonishing, particularly when it comes from people you'd think would have a grasp of history. They're academics, they're members of the media, the working media. You mentioned some of the other outlets, CNN, The View on the ABC. Let's just have a look at some of these examples.
You know, this idea of how the royal family, how this family grapples with its history and legacy of colonialism, of slavery, of the potential paying of reparations is a really important one. And I think that King Charles understands that his job is, yes, as a monarch, but he is also an anchor for this Commonwealth.
She said, a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating.
It was a thieving, raping, genocidal
but I think
empire.
I'm lost for words. Step in.
First of all, if the British Empire had been genocidal, the people in question wouldn't be alive. They wouldn't be speaking. If the British Empire had been a genocidal empire, it would have tried to kill all of the people under its rule. It did no such thing. There wouldn't be any people in the countries that were under British rule if the British Empire had been genocidal. Genocidal is the intent to wipe out an entire people. The British Empire never tried to do that anywhere. That's the first thing. The second thing is that absolute moron we just saw first from CNN talking about reparations. She has no idea in her own racist hatred that Britain paid reparations 250 years ago. We paid reparations throughout the 19th century. We paid reparations for slavery by abolishing it under George III and then policing the high seas to ensure that slavery not only was outlawed across the British territories, but was outlawed across the high seas. We paid higher goods in Britain throughout the 19th century, higher prices in goods, because because we wouldn't deal in enslaving countries such as the United States of America. And so when people talk about reparations today, it demonstrates not just their own basically give me cash mentality, which is all that you see here, but also the incredible ignorance. They don't know that Britain paid down any moral and financial debt it ever had 200 years ago under very distant predecessors of Queen Elizabeth II. And these people are not just tin-rattling money makers. They're also just constantly showing their unbelievable ignorance of everything that happened before the day they were born.
Douglas Murray's criticism zeroes in on the misrepresentation of the royal family's history and the misplaced calls for reparations. His argument is twofold. Firstly, he highlights the factual inaccuracies in the media's portrayal of the royal family's legacy, correcting the record by pointing out that Britain, in fact, played a pioneering role in abolishing slavery and even compensated slave owners in a bid to end the trade too. 150 years ago, a nuance often overlooked or ignored in contemporary discussions. Secondly, Murray condemns the reduction of complex historical narratives to simplistic anachronistic judgments, emphasizing the danger of judging historical figures and events through a modern moral lens. Murray's criticism of the media's portrayal of these issues points to a larger systemic problem, a widespread historical amnesia, and a tendency towards presentism, judging past actions by today's standards without considering the context of those times. This approach not only distorts history, but also impedes meaningful dialogue on current issues. Historians and scholars have continually warned against such anachronistic interpretations of history, advocating for a more nuanced understanding that acknowledges the complexities and moral ambiguities of historical events and figures. Furthermore, the backlash Murray highlights against the royal family and the demand for reparations overlooks the modern Commonwealth's role as a voluntary association of sovereign states. This relationship, based on mutual respect and shared values, stands in stark contrast to the coercive nature of colonial empires. Today's Commonwealth, encompassing nations with diverse cultural, religious, and historical backgrounds, is a testament to the evolution of these relationships from colonial rule to equal partnership. Britain's Slavery Abolition Act marked a monumental step towards ending the slave trade within the British Empire, a move that was not only moral but also came with substantial economic costs. The British government spent a significant portion of its national budget to compensate slave owners in the colonies, freeing over 800,000 enslaved Africans across its territories. This financial undertaking amounted to 40% of the government's annual expenditure, equivalent to billions in today's currency, illustrating the enormity of Britain's commitment to eradicating slavery. The scale of this financial sacrifice is a testament to the values Murray defends. It highlights the complexity of historical narratives that are too often simplified or distorted in modern debates.
Okay. First off, this was a tough one. I think I'm going to start with Douglas Murray's outlash on the social media person. I mean, just as the presenter he's talking with said, these people in the media should have a wider grasp of the knowledge of what went down at some point. And there should not be any reason caught speaking from a racist or ignorant point of view. I believe that's what got Douglas very pissed off. Then, secondly, just as the moderator said, judging what happened back then from, according to her, using modern lenses to judge what happened in ancient times is wrong. Because the way they saw it then is quite different from the way we see things now. And if we're using the terms of how society has evolved to judge what went down in the minds of people who were still kind of primitive, then I think we'll be getting it all wrong. And thirdly, I agree with Douglas Murray in the sense that the Commonwealth is not coercive or a forced organization. There are a lot of countries that were colonized by the British. A lot are in Commonwealth, but definitely not all of them. I mean, there are a series of countries living Commonwealth, especially those that have left a democratic rule. They are under military enforcement. Yes, they are not under the Commonwealth, and they don't go chasing them to bring them back in. It it's a matter of having dialogue to see where they can reach a common point. Even the ones that left in earlier years, ancient times, they don't chase them to bring them back into the Commonwealth fold. They have stayed gone and had their peace. The Commonwealth is not a coercive organization. Just as Douglas said, it is a proof of colonialism turned cooperation. That's the word. It's a proof of colonialism turned cooperation. And I believe people shouldn't be quick to judge what they didn't really see. How can you be so sure that the British was a genocidal platform? As Douglas said, if they were like that, then it would have been on a killing spree. But the truth is, even though not all of them were nice at that time, because definitely you must just have some bad eggs among the lot, even if it's for the greater good, the British actually did help in one way or the other to improve the countries that they colonized at one time. And just as he said, they have paid their dues. I mean, they abolished the Slave Act. They made sure it wasn't enforced anywhere. They bought goods at higher rates. There's really no need dragging them up and down for this. It's really of no use. I mean, for something that happened so long ago, and obviously they are living in peace with the Africans, with them, and other countries under the Commonwealth, I believe people should let sleeping dogs lie. Anyway, guys, now it goes. Just leave your comments in the comment section and leave a thumbs up at the end of this video. Thank you for watching and stay safe.